Hello, I'm Brian Downs, and this is a Republic if you can keep it. Here's a piece of advice for when you are carrying a gun. If you find yourself presented with two choices to ensure your own safety while you are carrying a firearm, the first choice being take 2 steps back, the second choice being punch 3 or 4 bullets through a woman's head, you take the first choice. It's January 14th, 2026. It's about 2:30 in the afternoon, coming to you from Orlando, Florida. We are, of course, talking about the killing of Renee Good in Minneapolis by ICE officer Jonathan Ross. Basic bedrock principle of police work, a basic idea that you must be trained in from day one if you wish to do any kind of police work as an armed agent of the state, anybody, or even not the state, anybody in this private security, law enforcement, county sheriff up to federal agent. Basic idea is you must be calm. You must be thinking carefully. The situations you go into are likely to be confused. That's why you're there. The people you encounter are likely to be confused, frightened, upset, injured, ill, mentally ill. You need to be thinking clearly, because very often they are not. If, for example, a couple of your fellow ICE agents are trying to yank the door open on their vehicle, they're likely to be confused and frightened. So you need to be thinking clearly. You need to be thinking clearly enough not to pass in front of the vehicle, which might lurch forward accidentally and injure you, or possibly because the driver wishes to injure you. That was not what happened in this case, of course, but I acknowledge that the agent in the moment doesn't know what the driver's intentions are. That's why you don't pass in front of the vehicle at all. You stand to one side of it, or you pass behind it, where it's much less likely, much more difficult for you to be struck. In any case, when the vehicle is moving a couple of miles an hour and the wheels are canted sharply away from you, you don't shoot anybody. But that happened, and now, of course, the Trump administration in its vileness has closed ranks. The president himself said that Ms. Good ran over an ICE agent. She did not. We've all seen several angles of the incident. Kristi Noem said that Renee Good was a domestic terrorist. Of course, that's totally ridiculous. But this does bring us to a point. Was Renee Good involved in political activism? Yes. Was her wife, who was standing nearby at the time Ms. Good's brains were evacuated from her cranium, involved in political activism? Yes. Their backgrounds, their political stances, their reason for being on the street that day are all totally irrelevant to the use of force matrix. The only thing that justifies force, and especially lethal force, is an immediate danger of death or grievous injury to yourself or others. That wasn't happening here. But the Trump administration, of course, is lying like crazy, simply spitting out absolute falsehoods as if they are true, declaring victory and moving on. But this has been Donald Trump's brand and modus operandi his entire life long, so why should he change now? Of course, the Trump Justice Department, headed by people like Pam Bondi, so on, the Attorney General Pam Bondi, is not an independent agency at all. It is a travesty and a joke. It is obviously full of Trump toadies, but it has decided it will not investigate this shooting that involves an armed federal agent, although any shooting involving an armed federal agent would typically be investigated. No, instead, the Trump Justice Department has decided to launch a criminal investigation against the widow Good, Renee Good, the wife of the woman who was killed. Although there is no evidence whatsoever that Renee Good is involved in any criminal activity. No, she just was there. She was filming ICE. She was opposed to the brutish thuggishness of Trump's administration. She is now tragically famous, so we should go through her life with a fine-tooth comb and hope to find, I don't know, a slightly wonky tax return, I guess. But yes, Trump's Justice Department decides this is a woman who we ought to persecute and intimidate. Of course, a number of career lawyers have now resigned from the Justice Department, both at the federal level and at the state level, regarding this matter, and they deserve our praise. It is disgusting. It is the way the administration is behaving should send people in the administration certainly out of their careers and probably to prison. But it is not a surprise. Nothing Donald Trump does is a surprise. He has the same program all day long. I do what I do because I want to do it. No one contradicts me. I am always right. Anyone who seeks to contradict me or criticize me is a criminal. More and more he leans on this. Anyone who seeks to contradict me or criticize me is a criminal, an enemy of the state. This is the language of tyrants. My will is the law. My words change reality itself. This, of course, we've seen from him for years and years, and it's only getting worse and worse as he understands that his public career is a colossal disgrace and that his political career is crashing to its end. Donald Trump has always been like this. He will always be like this. There are no other options with the man. He is unfit for public office. This only proves it again.